The war in Afghanistan is already the longest war in U.S. history. As Michael reported, pain and suffering in Iraq just goes on and on. Equally morally repugnant is the vicious propaganda campaign and illegal blockade against Iran. As well, the U.S. flaunts all world opinion and continues to support the brutal Israeli regime. Its apartheid walls, its dark prisons, criminal blockades, and its nuclear arsenal bristling with weapons aimed at all the other nations of the Middle East and South Asia. From Korea to Costa Rica, the U.S. military machine is in deadly motion. In truth, when we think about strategy, there's only one force on earth that can put this monster back in its cage. That is the force we saw in motion in 2006 when millions of immigrant workers took to the streets. That's the force we sensed when the Oakland longshoremen let that Israeli ship sit idly in the port. That force is the political mobilization of working people in their millions abroad and here at home. Now, we can't do that today, but everything we do today has to be designed to lead us to that place. So the strategy advocated by the National Assembly to end U.S. wars and occupations is very clear. Re-privilege united mass actions independent of the Democratic and Republican parties. What does that mean? Let's take the call for unity. Almost every single one of us are here in this room because we sense we need unity to get this job done. It's obvious that the U.S. war makers are united. They do not let tactical differences, surge, no surge, negotiations, no negotiations, warlord A, warlord B. They do not let these tactical differences prevent them from blocking together to keep the war machine humming. Wasn't this totally clear at the beginning of this month when, despite the face-saving gestures and maneuvers of the rule, Congress continued to fund this war? We too must embrace those actions that can unite us. When I look out in this room, I know I'm looking at the leaders of hundreds of Saturday vigils, hundreds of brown bag lunches, potlucks, tours, pickets, phone campaigns, election campaigns, and dozens of courageous acts of individual witness. Every single one of these activities knits the fabric of our movement. Every single one of these activities binds us and forges us into an organizing force. But they are not enough. This year, let every one of our many campaigns build toward a giant united action on April 9th, calling for Out Now and Money for Jobs, Not War. Let us use every press conference on bringing the war dollars home to build momentum toward a united mass action this spring. Let's use every city council vote on budget cuts to garner an endorsement for April 9th. Every student demonstration, every fight against teacher cuts, every tour of Gaza flotilla survivors, every Honduras solidarity action. Let us use these to publicize a mobilization that builds and builds and builds. We can each continue our dearest projects, but we must bring it all together in a common action whose size and diversity will make the anti-war movement visible to those who increasingly need to find it. Some of you might be asking, does it really make sense to talk about mass actions? Well, the call for the March for Jobs on October 2nd is a signal that the time when we can put sizable numbers of people in the streets is near. The rally of hundreds of thousands in Arizona to beat back the racist anti-immigrant law about to take effect tells us this is possible. Did you experience the power of 200,000 Latino workers in Washington last March? The Equality March of 200,000 last spring? The stirring mobilizations of thousands of Arab Americans during the invasion of Gaza? That tells us things are changing. We must have our institutions in order. This conference is organized on the basis of broad sponsorship and one person, one vote. It's the tried and true mechanism for getting demonstrations that the whole movement can buy into. If we can make this kind of functioning the norm, we can move away from divisiveness and toward cooperation on regular mass actions. Finally, I want to address the third component of our strategy, political independence. The National Assembly firmly believes that to build a movement strong enough to push back the war makers, the demonstrations that we all call together must be visibly independent of both political parties. We all know Congress thinks that they have us in their pocket. We have to let them know in their bones that the consequences of their inaction on the war will be the complete alienation of the vast majority from their political system. They have to truly and deeply feel the growth of a movement that will not be appeased by mere promises. But there's a much more immediate and pressing reason why our united actions have to be organized around the demands that reflect what we really want, not what they want us to call for. We are organizing in the Great Recession. That means that politics is extreme and politics is polarized. The vast majority of the people victimized by this war hate all politicians, and especially those in power. They hate whatever regime is in power because their life is in shambles and there is no end to their misery. The jobs are not coming back. The homes are not coming back. The deportations are not going to end. If we tie our demonstrations to the defense of the indefensible things being done in this Congress, we risk losing the people we need to the other political force that is willing to stand up and just say no to politics as usual. We risk driving at least some of the Anglo victims of this war to the extreme right, to the Tea Party, or to whatever radicalized rightist force is willing to stand up and say no to parliamentary games. In that sense, the decision about what to do next in U.S. politics is really and truly up to us. The stakes are extremely high, but I think that people in this room can rise to the challenge, be part of to pose real fundamental change. We can and must shape actions that truly speak to all those who've been thrown away by their employers and the banks and the politicians. We can help them experience their own power in the streets. So I say, let us forge an agreement on political independence and unity in action right here and right now. Out now, money for jobs, not war, on to April 9th.